Okay, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is a brand new slide technique has been discovered in Halo Infinite, and it will change how we approach map movement. The bad news is it's very difficult to do and very risky. And all this crazy movement, these rotations, these jumps, yeah, we're not moving like this anytime soon, if ever. Which honestly is probably also good news. This is kind of crazy, even for me. So really, this is just good, unless 343 just patches it in like the next 3 days. We got to break it down either way. First, I need to give a shout out to @MilkWayFPS on Twitter. I didn't hit this stuff. He hit this stuff. I linked his Twitter in the description. I've covered several of MilkWay's videos in the past dating back to Halo 5. Understand, this man is not normal, okay? He is diffy. I've seen him do things with Halo's movement that I have not seen anyone, not even say Shotzi, pull off in a game before. I also got to give a shout out to FeedSplit @feed_HCS. He is the one who brought this technique to my attention. He also named it the Snap Slide, and I like that name, honestly. I think we're sticking with it. All right, so what's going on here? Why are we suddenly discovering this now? How does it work? Is it too much? Should it stay in the game? I'm going to answer all these questions in this video. First off, ironically, this movement is only possible thanks to 343's Season 2 patch that came out in the beginning of May. If you remember, that patch, they nerfed one aspect of sliding. They nerfed the drop slide, where if you sprint, jump, hold crouch, land on a ramp, you boost out. This was great for getting camo off the opening on recharge. They nerfed it so you don't slide anywhere near as far now. As you can see, I sprint, jump, land on the ramp. I don't go anywhere near as far. That is all that was nerfed with this slide. The curb slide, which is a different technique where you're at like a raised surface like this and you sprint slide off with good timing. This is still in the game and it was left unchanged. You can still curb slide. Everything else about the slide is basically unchanged. But what did change is the physics of the game changed, at least a little bit. Now, this is, of course, my own speculation. As far as I'm aware, there's no patch notes that talk about this. And 343, if you are watching, anything that you can do to, add more detail and transparency to those patch notes, and I'm sure many others would greatly appreciate. Honestly, just more discourse between community and devs in general, I think would be super valuable. I understand it's 343's game in the end of the day, but there are so many passionate, knowledgeable fans that you have that can offer constructive insight that I think will only benefit the future of this game if we put our heads together a little bit. Now, what I mean by the physics have changed, and the best way I can describe this is in this game, if you land on any slope surface with enough forward momentum, the moment that you land, the momentum that you have gets like stored with you for a brief period of time. Imagine like Mario Kart, like the mushrooms, the accelerating mushrooms in Mario Kart. Basically, if you've got enough forward momentum and you jump and land on a slope surface, for a brief period, it's like you've got one of those mushrooms, basically. And with the right execution, you can use it to boost yourself off of one of these ramps or slope surfaces. Now, what changed with the game is the window of time that you have that momentum when colliding with a slope. It's wider now. For some reason, there's about a half second where you are holding that mushroom, basically. To use that momentum and snap slide on a ramp, you need to approach it in a very specific way. This is a good spot to learn. If you hit it, it'll look something like this. It's a pretty decent boost. Snap slides can only be hit on an angle to the left or to the right. The bare minimum momentum you need for this to work is to sprint and jump. If you don't at least sprint and jump before landing on the ramp, then this won't be possible. If you have more momentum, like if you grapple slide or curb slide, technically you can launch even farther, but that's much harder to set up. So the basics would be sprint, jump, and notice how my reticle is straight forward. That's very important for the setup. I keep my reticle forward until basically the moment my feet collide with the surface. And then once I hit the floor, this is where the snap comes in. I need to basically combine both of my control sticks. I look to the right at about a 90 degree, and my left stick shifts from about 12 to about 2 o'clock, if it's like a clock hand. And they move in unison. And then I hit the crouch button slightly after that turning begins. I've got like a fraction of a second window to hit crouch. So it's not the instant that I hit the ramp. It's shortly after I turn and then crouch and jump to slide out. That timing of my look, the timing of the slide, all of this goes into the launch. And if you don't do it all perfectly, you're not going to get the result. So I think already off of this, you can start to see the potential drawbacks of hitting something like this in game. The fact that I have to keep my reticle forward throughout the entire setup means I am not ready for any gunfights as I do this. If anybody is here on C plat and I'm trying to line up one of these snap slides, I am missing an opportunity for first shot. I will die trying to set this up. So I would have to somehow have awareness that nobody's going to be here when I go to pull this one off. And then you've got the execution and the timing that goes into this snap. A slight mistake here with my crouch timing or my turn timing. If I start turning before I hit the ramp, I'm going to get a normal or a dead slide. I need to make sure I wait until either just the instant before I touch the ramp or the moment I touch the ramp to turn out. And depending on how far I'm able to turn and the timing of my crouch, like right there, I crouched slightly too late, so I still got a regular slide in the end, right? You can start to see like the difficulty and the risk reward in the execution when this doesn't work out. Though when it does, you've still got some potential for a decent boost here. But then, once again, that boost varies depending on how perfectly you're executing this. MILKWAY, in his video, he is on a mouse and keyboard. And that is part of the reason why he is launching as far as he is. I currently don't know if it's possible on controller to launch as far as he is on mouse and keyboard. Clearly, you can see I can get some decent momentum on this ramp. But I can't snap my reticle out at the same speed that he can. And that speed is important for getting a big launch. Is that a problem? Will that create an unfair imbalance between mouse and keyboard and controller? In the grand scheme of things, I don't think it will, but I'll explain why a little bit later. For now, understand that this technique is still extremely versatile, even on controller. We saw it here, but here's another example in this spot. To cross myself to this doorway, right? So you can use it going up and going down ramps as long as you're angling yourself out to the left or the right. This is a very specific setup. What I'm doing is sprinting and jumping and landing on this corner of the stairs, which gives me a little window, an angle to cut myself across the gap here. The moment I land, I turn, slide, jump, and depending on the timing of the turn of the slide, I'm going to get the different result here. And there we go. I got a pretty decent boost here. It's varying results, of course, depending on your execution, on the angle of it. This is not easy to do. I've practiced this for many hours in the last couple days. Just trust me on that one. But you can see this can be very useful if you're hitting it correctly. The beauty of this one is reticle placement is not as necessary, right? This was super risky. If somebody's on C plat, they're going to melt me. But this one, a little bit less so. Of course, there's the opposite angle on control. Somebody could be standing in this door and I might get shot for free. But there's a better chance that as a rotation, if I hit this correctly, I could maybe use it to my advantage. And note that for stuff like this, it's never really about, how can you get the biggest, farthest launch and the craziest rotation? It's more so about the subtleties of the movement. How can you use it to trick up timing and make an outplay on somebody? And here's a simple example. With a ramp like this, if you apply it correctly, you can slide up this ramp slightly faster, right? You can imagine maybe a situation where you expect somebody to be at that door within a certain timing. And if you execute this correctly, like who knows, maybe you slide in for, an early shot or a ninja or a melee or something, just depending on your awareness and execution here. I'm just subtly changing my approach and my speed going up this ramp. And I'm honestly just missing the timing here, but there's potential that you can see with this. Same with this ramp over here. Land on it, turn, slide. And depending on my timing, maybe I get a rotation to this doorway while also shooting long haul at the same time. I don't know. Like it's, get creative with it. Basically what I'm saying is, those massive slides MILKWAY is hitting to cross like the entire map might be great for shock value. It's just not practical. Nobody is going to be moving like that, and it just doesn't make sense. And we'll look at the clips together in a second. Though that said, here is a pretty crazy jump that I did not expect to get that close to hitting it on this try. Not going to lie. You can work on this one on controller though. And it is not very easy to do, but it's the same process. Sprint, jump, land, turn, slide, and jump, and you can catch the balcony. For this one, you got to perfectly line up your sprint and jump with the sloped staircase. And once again, the moment I land, I turn, slide, jump, and depending on that timing and the angle, I'll get the right boost that'll send me to a clamber on this ledge. I've hit this a handful of times, and I've done this maybe hundreds of times, let's say. Like, I've worked on this a lot, and it is not easy to hit consistently. And then think about it from a risk-reward perspective. Like, okay, let's say you practice this for hours and you get this consistent, good for you. It looks badass. But what does that mean? What are you risking to do this, right? Like if I jump out with my reticle like this and somebody's in C, I'm dead once again, right? Or somebody's on the balcony, I'm dead. I'm wasting time just jumping out and setting this up. The pizza jump is a way more efficient, way more effective way to do this because I can look and shoot the whole time. Assuming I execute that correctly, I also get where I want to go as well. And that's kind of the beauty of having options and skill jumps in these situations is using the right one depending on the scenario, depending on what you have timing for. But basically, it's just like, yes, you can master this, but does it make sense to ever do it? Like, it's craziness, But if you hit it, it's satisfying if you hit it. And that's just kind of the beauty of stuff like this. What's much more interesting to me and where I think this will truly impact competitive is little optimizations like this. Like imagine that's a starting strat and I want to get to Stalker quickly. So I jump to the ramp, turn, slide, jump. And if I get the timing right, I've now rotated to Stalker a fraction of a second faster. Like that is the skill gap. That is where this is going to start to impact pro play. So start to think about how can I apply this creatively and effectively in situations where it makes sense, where I can afford to give up reticle placement to set this up, because you don't want to risk your death setting something like this up. Just little efficiencies that complement something like a curb slide that we can already do in game. And then all those little efficiencies can be optimized and applied in so many like unique ways, like even just going up this ramp, right? Imagine an opening strat. Once again, I sprint from this side, jump at a diagonal, turn, slide. And if I hit that timing right on the right angle, I have now approached center map at a slightly faster timing. Like, who knows? Maybe that gives me first shot. Or this right here as like a drop slide. Any interaction with a ramp, either up or down with momentum, you've got a time window to turn, slide, and jump. And now I basically created a unique angle drop slide, sort of. Like, it's cool because they nerfed the drop slide, and what they did was just kind of like replace it with brand new tech that's way deeper, more challenging to hit, and like got a whole new risk reward profile. Like this is 343. If it was an accident, great work. Like this is sick. With all this said, let's take a look at this MILKWAY footage just so you can get a sense of what's going into this. And note that I can't hit any of this. I have spent hours and I can't even touch them. I can't do it. It might be impossible on controller, to be honest. Even this first one right here, the speed of the snap off the stairs on pink side, I can't achieve that speed. I think, once again, it might be exclusive to mouse. Just the fact that he can turn 90 degrees so quickly might be contributing to the launch. I think it is. You can get pretty decent boosts off this staircase, but not to the degree that he's able to pull off with a mouse to get to this ledge. And then once he does this, he's combining that perfect snap slide into a perfect landing on that yellow box, and then immediately sprinting, curb sliding off of it, and frame perfectly jumping and thrusting. This is crazy to execute, just for the record, just so he can barely reach the clamber on the window. Like, go ahead and try this. I've never hit it, and I never will be able to hit it. Good luck if you want to go ahead. Even if you did execute this, there is no scenario in a real game where this would ever make sense. It's ridiculous, right? Like, if you tried this, you would get melted for free by the enemy, even if you killed all 4 players. Why do this? How unnecessary, right? Like, hold your high ground or rotate in a safer fashion where you can actually pre-nade a spawn or shoot somebody. You can't fight back. You're just going for craziness. Same with the recharge stuff here. Like, that is a frame perfect landing where he nicks his feet on the edge of that ledge just so he has the ability to execute a curb slide. You can't curb slide unless you perfectly nick the edge there. Hits a second curb slide. He's using a visual lineup on the staircase to line himself up with the line on the wall. That's what he's trying to hit off the curb slide, so that when he hits the ramp, he turns and snaps through the door all the way to commando door. I've tried this. I've made it to the A door, just past it, but nowhere near the commando door like this. Like, this is insanity. Don't know if it's possible. He's doing a couple, chained snap slides with the repulsor, some mouse and keyboard advantage stuff, I'd say, once again, but why would you ever do it? Same with streets. This Catalyst one, I spent over an hour over and over and over again just trying to cross center map on Catalyst. I have not hit it once. I've not even got close. Once again, I don't know if it's possible. I've tried it with mouse. I have not hit it once. We got to ask MILKWAY or something, try to figure it out. But it's not just the execution. It's where he's landing as well that's contributing to the launch. He is very purposefully landing on the very top of that ramp, and it's the combination of his execution plus the landing that's allowing him to launch as far as he is. And though Catalyst has a lot of great options, like practical options to use snap sliding, stuff like this is nuts, is insane and nonsense. Honestly, you're never going to do this in game. That said, snap sliding on this map has potential, and I recommend you practice it there. But insanity. I've tried the bizarre one for hours, could not hit the clamber, never hit it once, don't know if it's possible. I've hit versions that are close to it, and I think those could be useful in game, but actually going for the clamber, insanity, and I can't do it. That doesn't mean you can't hit it, though. Go ahead, give it a try, see what you can pull off. If you're cracked, maybe you can put something together. I just think, regardless, in the end of the day, moving that fast and that far will never benefit you as a player, right? Like, you're distancing yourself from your teammates. You're not going to be ready for any gunfights, and it's never going to be something that I think anyone is going to execute with consistency in an actual game. This, what we're seeing here from MILKWAY, is the same as Epoxied hitting cone jumps in Halo 3. It is art that stays in the custom game, and it does not go into competitive. The subtleties, though, the little rotations, the practical stuff I showed, that is the real game changer here. This is what will affect pro play and what you should be practicing, in my opinion. In the end of the day with Halo, it's never about who can be the fastest, right? This is not Need for Speed. Halo doesn't work like that. Halo is about timing and precision. It's about predicting the engagement that's about to happen and using the right tools in the right situation to make the outplay, to get that timing advantage. It's not about who can rotate as quickly as possible. It's a dance, right? It's about having those tools. And honestly, in the end of the day, that's why I think this should not be patched. And 343, if you are watching, please don't patch this nuance. It's adding another tool to the kit, another way to interact with the map and gameplay, and it's very challenging and risky to do. You're committing your reticle. You have to frame perfectly, execute it to get the launch that you want. I think in the end, you've got something deep and something interesting. They nerfed the drop slide. And while I still don't fully agree with that decision for reasons I'm not going to get into, I think the one justification for that nerf is that drop sliding was very easy to do and very powerful. Anybody could just sprint, jump, hold crouch, land on a ramp, and go flying. And I think in the end of the day, powerful movement needs to be challenging, needs to be risky, or else it will be abused, or else the game will fundamentally change because of it. I think that this mechanic is in a perfect sweet spot where it's challenging enough that it won't dramatically change gameplay. Lower level players don't have to worry about it. High level players and pros will benefit from the nuance. And trick jumpers like MILKWAY, who just want to, master the mechanics and express themselves, can do so within a custom game where they're not hurting anybody in the end of the day. And then they can put forth content that's so insane, it inspires people like myself to continue to up my own level of play with the mechanics we've got here. And I think curb slide is another mechanic that has that perfect balance of difficulty, risk, to reward as well. Not everybody is pulling it off unless they put the time and practice in, and then even when they do, they understand there are many risks that come with mastering it. The result of that time and effort leads to passionate gamers and fans, and it's part of the reason why we're still following Halo and loving Halo today, at least from my perspective. So don't patch it, okay? 343, come on, guys. I mean, especially when we don't even know what we're working with. Like, MILKWAY hits this crazy movement sequence, and people see it, and at face value, they're like, oh my God, should we patch? Should we not? We're freaking out. We don't even know what we're looking at, right? Like, take a second to understand what the heck this is. Try it out. Let's see how it impacts the game. Things shouldn't be patched unless they are shown to be a problem, and the community recognizes that as a problem and communicates that. And in the end of the day, I think communication is so important. 343, I really hope that in the future, when it comes to considering patches for stuff like this, there's a little back and forth. We know something in advance. We get to talk about it, figure it out together a little bit, so we can all prosper and create the best Halo. In the end of the day, we all just want this game to succeed, I think, right? So that's all I got. That's my TED Talk, okay? Thank you for coming. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Hopefully you enjoy snap sliding. Let me know if you like it, if you hate it. Make sure to sub if you haven't done so already. Like the video. That's all I got for today. We'll be back soon.